I'm Mitch. Welcome to Vita, Picta. It's a show where we talk about the historical context behind famous artwork. And today we're looking at something a little different, and that is the archaeological site at Medinet Habu, which is near the Egyptian town of Luxor. And this is a copied version of a relief which was carved into the mortuary temple of the pharaoh Ramesses III. This printed version was created by a group of archaeologists who have been painstakingly copying a bunch of Egyptian hieroglyphics at this site starting in the 1930s. Copies like this one were done so that future generations would have access to it in case something happens and this site, disappears due to erosion, tourists, whatever. The big guy in the carving is Ramesses III, who ruled during a period called the New Kingdom of Egypt. By the time he was pharaoh, Egypt had already been around for 2,000 years, which is insane. And to contextualize that, that'd be like if the U.S. dated back all the way back to the Roman Empire. It's an ancient, mysterious, and fascinating history. And this engraving is especially mysterious and fascinating because it's a key puzzle piece into figuring out what happened during a period called the Bronze Age collapse. And as its name suggests, that is a time where multiple civilizations all kind of collapsed. A bunch of institutions that upheld the ancient Bronze Age civilizations all around Mediterranean in 1200 BC were either wiped out or were so badly damaged that they wouldn't really recover for hundreds of years. And what follows is sort of a dark age, where old kingdoms are replaced by smaller feuding groups that operated on a much smaller scale in terms of technology, trading, and culture. As you can imagine, the Bronze Age collapse is a hotbed for archaeological interests, and there are many competing theories as to exactly how this went down. Volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, system collapses, all might have played their own part. Now, this relief is key to understanding what happened because it was carved by the Egyptians to show a great battle that occurred during this time. The people in the carving on boats are what we call today the Sea Peoples, which is an intentionally vague term to describe a group of people that showed up in the Mediterranean around the time of the Bronze Age collapse, and they started wreaking havoc. We don't know for sure if these Sea People actually caused the collapse or merely capitalized on it, but we do know that this mysterious group showed up along the shores of the Eastern Mediterranean en masse and had the intention of inhabiting the area and removing the people that currently live there. The Sea Peoples are thought to have been fleeing their homeland because of maybe a natural disaster, and when they showed up in mass, they brought along all their stuff with them and their families, and they proved to be deadly fighters. The Egyptologist Toby Wilkinson puts it as, quote, "All along the eastern seaboard of the Mediterranean, cities were being sacked and torched, harbors burned and looted, entire nations laid low. Out of the blue, the sighting of enemy ships on the western horizon, being the first warning of an impending attack." End quote. Now, carvings like this one show how the Egyptians dealt with this threat. This relief shows Ramesses III standing on the corpses of slain Sea Peoples and unloading his arrows into the invaders. Now, according to hieroglyphic inscriptions and some papyrus scrolls, archaeologists have managed to put together kind of a rough timeline of events here, and it seems like this battle occurred around 1175 BC. The Egyptians had just heard from their neighbors that the Sea Peoples were coming, so they got ready and prepared an ambush for their arrival. And when the Sea People showed up, all the Egyptians hid in the banks of the Nile River and kind of popped up on them and ambushed them when they tried to, get onto the banks of the Nile River. And then the Egyptian Navy wheeled behind them and blocked their exit. And what happens is this battle where the Sea Peoples are trying to get onto shore and the Egyptian infantry is waiting with spears and the archers are coming down on them with arrows. And now, 3,000 years later, this kind of thing is all we have to try to understand what had happened so far back in the past. It's amazing that it still exists, and thank God we have it, but it's hard not to think about the implications of this. What's going to be left for our society when it collapses to people 3,000 years after that? Thank you so much for watching. I hope you had some fun, learned something along the way, and if you're into liking and subscribing, that would be awesome if you could do that. And I hope to see you next time.